Hello and welcome to Creation Research Unplugged, our very first episode. In this episode, we're giving you a bit of an idea as to what's to come in the future. And what is to come in the future? Well, here at Creation Research, we are big believers of hands-on experiments, hands-on interaction, really being able to get out there and get dirty. And so, well, have a look at what we have here. It's a pecten shell block, or we call them scallop shells today. And you can see they're exactly the same as the living ones. They are living fossils, they haven't changed, they haven't evolved, they are excellent evidence that they've been doing exactly what God told them to do since the beginning, which is reproduce after their own kind. And you also see here, I have a jug. Quite a small jug, but it's quite a special one. This is actually one from the Holy Land, from Israel, from around the same time that the Persian king allowed the children of Israel to head back to their promised land. And they started making things like this again, as well as obviously the walls that Nehemiah oversaw that they built around Jerusalem. You see, it's things like these that you can actually feel and touch and get hands-on with that we pride ourselves in Creation Research of being able to provide. And being able to give you not just ideas, not just theories, but real life experiments, real life artifacts, real life fossils to help you get up close and personal to the truth. And then, of course, the most important truth of all, Jesus Christ as the Creator. So over the next few episodes that we will hopefully continue into the future, we're going to be bringing you segments from Australia, from the USA, from the UK, and from many different topics like archaeology, like fossils, like the living world that we see around us. So tune in every single week and enjoy as we move on forward. Now, every single week we shall be broadcasting these episodes here from our Creation Research UK headquarters. But we're not just going to be bringing you UK items, we're going to be adding aspects from all over the planet. Case in point, our first little bit this week is going to come from down under, Australia, home of the Creation Research head office, home of our international director John Mackay, and we will be telling you a little bit about Jurassic Ark, Creation Research's only outdoor creation museum set in a beautiful area with loads of trees and plants and fossils. It's absolutely wonderful. So to introduce you to it and tell you a little bit more, let's head over to Australia right now and meet John Mackay, our international director.
G'day, and welcome to where we do our repotting for Australia's outdoor creation museum, Jurassic Ark. Beautiful ferns, aren't they? In fact, what's interesting about some of these ferns is they're actually quite tasty too. I bet you didn't learn that at school. But even more interesting, we plant these ferns because we have some of them in the rocks. Let's get a close-up here. In fact, let's pick one of these branches off the fern tree here, and you can actually see the similarity. This is a living fossil in Jurassic rocks. This was found up near Jurassic Ark, our outdoor creation museum. But see the greenhouse behind me? Follow me just quickly in here, because we do a lot of our potting for the orchids. Aren't they beautiful things? But that's another day's topic on God's genius as creator. And I have here a really important fossil. It's also Jurassic. I brought it back with me. Let me finish chewing this fern here at the moment. I brought it back with me from Germany, from the original Jura. That's a chewy fern, I tell you. Can you spot what it is? Let's scan from the bottom up to the top. It's a squid. And Jurassic? Yes, we've already discussed it. It's not millions of years. It's not evolution. It's from the Jura Mountains. But the oldest book that I've read about the Jura in is a book by Julius Caesar when he conquered into southern Germany, and Jura just meant woody areas. It was inhabited by the original population. Julius Caesar took over them, but today they're famous for these fossils. A fern in Australia, a squid in Germany, not one bit of evidence for evolution at all. Do you realise the evidence for creation is rock solid? Don't be surprised Jesus said if the people stopped praising him, the stones would cry out. And the rocks do, that God created creatures to produce their own kind. I'm the creation guy, John Mackay.
Drop. Ready? Go! Oh, good catch. Bring it back, boy. Well done. Drop it. One of the things that we want to do with Creation Research and these episodes is help home educators, people who school at home. Whether or not your children go to school, it's really important to make sure you give them a biblical education. And so over the next few episodes, and we want this to again become a continuous thing, we're going to be bringing you help like fossils. Well done. Creation, oh bless you. Let go, drop. And many other aspects that will help give your kids the biblical perspective on things. So join us as we work with Creation Research 101 and we begin to investigate the world, especially for kids. Go! Yeah! Hello and welcome back to Creation Research 101 with me, Indiana Joe. Do you like my big dinosaur skull? Oh, this is a mosasaur. A mosasaur swam in the sea. It was often called a swimming dinosaur, even though it technically wasn't quite a dinosaur. It was a large swimming reptile. Mosasaur? Well, this dinosaur was first found on the banks of the River Meuse in Belgium. Saw? Well, you know the ancient Egyptians? You see, when they wanted to make the S sound with their hieroglyphs, they would draw a picture of a snake. And we have copied that and put it into our English language. The shape of the S, it looks very similar to a snake and it makes the S sound. Now that got translated into saw, which means moves like a snake from side to side. Mosasaur, the large creature that moves side to side that was found in the River Meuse. Fascinating. Well, I'm here with my siblings. This is Elijah, we have Talitha, and we have Esther, and we have some fossils. And over the next little while, we're going to be talking about what is a fossil. And we're going to be using some examples. And in the upcoming programmes, we're going to be looking at some different types of fossils and talking about them. So Elijah, can you tell me, what fossil have you got here?
Here we have an ammonite.
Ammonite. Interesting. It's in two halves. Ammonite. I-T-E, ite, means thing. Ammon, well, there was an Egyptian god called Ammon, and he had the head of a ram, and he had big curly horns. The big curly horns that looked very similar to the Ammonite. Ammonite, the thing that looks like the god Ammon. Interesting where these names can come from. Talitha, what have you got?
A starfish.
A starfish. Tell me, how did you know that that was a starfish?
It looks like a star.
Because it looks like a starfish. You see, many of these fossils look exactly like their modern day counterparts. They're called living fossils, and that's a whole other subject that we're going to be talking about in a later episode. Esther, tell me what you've got.
I've got a sea urchin.
A fossil sea urchin. How did you know that that was a fossil sea urchin?
It looks like one.
Because it looks like a living one. Living fossils. We're going to be coming back to that, but today we're just talking about these different types of fossils. So what does the word fossil mean? We've spoken about all these different fossils and what their names mean. What does the word fossil mean? Elijah, can you tell me what the word foss means?
The word foss, that means a hole.
A hole. Esther, can you tell me what the word ill means?
What's in the hole?
So foss is a hole and ill refers to what's in it. So Talitha, can you tell me what is a fossil?
Something in a hole.
Something that's in a hole. Fossil means something that's in a hole. So if you want to go looking for a fossil, where have you got to look?
In a hole.
In a hole. Very good. Now, it is true, when you go out to look for fossils, they are in the rocks. Now, some of them may have been eroded away, or you may find them on the beach, but they've come out of a giant hole that was the cliff face. If you want to go looking for a fossil, you need to dig it up. And for many, many years, anything you dug up was regarded as a fossil. Whether it was a human skeleton, an animal skeleton, some pieces of pottery, or even a rock. And then we began to categorize them. So for now, fossils are the remains of things that used to be alive that have now turned to stone. I wonder what the word stone means. Does anybody know what the word stone means?
Something that's been turned hard.
Something that is hard. Very good. Stone, rock simply means something that is hard. And so we have an animal that has been turned hard. It's been preserved in stone. That is simply all a fossil means. So over the next few episodes, we're going to be looking at some different examples of fossils because there are lots of wonderful names that come with these fossils, like cast fossil, mold fossil, petrified. What does all this mean? We're going to explore this, so join us next time on Creation Research 101. Don't you just love the English bluebells? They're a very famous flower and they're right this time of year absolutely everywhere. But hey, these bluebells down here and this one here, they're actually frauds. They're not the English bluebell. These are a closely related Spanish bluebell. But what's the difference? And why is it important? And how exactly does this all tie in with creation and the Bible? Well, let's find out today on our Creation Special. Well, we've been digging through the undergrowth all morning and we have been beautifully rewarded. Have a look at these fantastic English bluebells here. And these are the true English ones as well. And this is how you tell the difference. If you look closely, you can see they've got a long upright stem and you can see that they're actually beginning to droop on one side. And this is because they're top heavy. Notice how all the flowers are all on the same side of the stem. This causes it to bend over. And then if you get in closely and have a look at the inside of the flower, you can see, hey, aren't they pretty yellow stamen? Oh, stamen are the male part of the flower which produces the pollen, which can be transferred from one flower to another, which helps fertilise it. And they have these beautiful pale yellow stamen. Now these are the true English variety, the native ones. They smell absolutely beautiful and they're all around this time of year in spring. But there are some frauds. The Spanish bluebell was brought over for people's gardens and looks very, very different. And sometimes you can get hybrids. And these hybrids are absolutely decimating the native bluebell population. But how can you tell the difference? Now, for our native bluebells, they are very important to make sure we protect. And the reason why is well over half of the entire world's population of bluebells are found here in the United Kingdom. But down here we have some of those Spanish varieties, the cultivated variety, which is wreaking havoc across all of our native population. If you have a nice close look here, the first thing you might notice is the leaves are a lot wider in the Spanish version than the common English version, which tends to be long and thin and slender. And then if you have a look, these stalks carry on the entire way up. They do not droop to one side at all. And if you notice, the petals, the flower heads, are all the way around the stalk, not just to one side. Now the Spanish and bluebell, common bluebell, do actually breed together and they do produce a hybrid, which we have here. If you notice, it's got these yellow stamen inside of it and it's slightly drooping to one side, but the fact that it's got this flower petal which opens up all the way to the bottom and doesn't have the long thin slender with the little curly tips like the native bluebell does, this means that this is one of the hybrids from the Spanish. So that's how you tell the difference between the Spanish bluebells and between the common native bluebells, and that's how you are able to identify them in the wild, especially if there are any hybrids going about which the two have produced. Now our native bluebells are the proper bells. Bells have been for a long time a very important part of the English history. You think about just the number of churches that we have here that all have the bells in them, and they all ring for a purpose, whether it's to call somebody for Sunday morning service or to call people for prayer or to declare something like a wedding or a funeral. They've been an extremely important part of the English countryside and the English way of living for a very long time, and our bluebells reflect that. Our native ones are absolutely delightful. They're the proper bells with the proper little flower on them which curls up. They look like a bell, they've got the little yellow stamen inside, and they smell absolutely beautiful. They are an incredible piece of design and they are a wonderful English flower. But the Spanish ones, when they come in, they can actually create a hybrid. Now this is when they are so closely genetically linked that they can actually pollinate with the native bluebells. Now many would argue that hybridization like this is a form of evolution, but the reality, it couldn't be further from the truth. You see, both the Spanish version and the English version both stem back to the same original kind of bluebell. They've just diversified into their different kinds. In other words, you are not creating any new information. All you are simply doing is mixing information that's already there. Evolution requires there to be new information created out of nothing. Because if you want to turn a molecule into a fish, into a mammal, into a man, you've got to add an incredible amount of information. And we have never seen that. That's never been observed anywhere on the planet. Even with these hybridizations and the different mutations that you get, oh yes, there are mutations in many bluebells. Sometimes they can be pure white. Okay? It's not evolution. You are simply mixing information which has already existed, so you're mixing the Spanish and the English together to produce something different, or you are deleting information. You're taking away the ability for these bluebells to be blue, and so they're left with the only colour they have, which is white. None of that is evolution. It is simply playing with the information that you already have. The original bluebell kind was created by God. In fact, these are in the same family as the hyacinths. Originally created by God, diversified into the bluebells we see today, and some of them, like the Spanish one, has just had a little helping hand with man along the way to breed it into something that's slightly differently desirable. But no evolution in the slightest. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's creation special. Just as a word of warning, these native bluebells you're not allowed to pick or damage in any way, it's completely illegal, but the Spanish bluebells are just a commercial garden flower and you are certainly allowed to pick and display them as well. But do go for a walk, have a look at the native ones, smell them in their sort of natural habitat. They are absolutely delightful. They are truly a fantastic part of God's creation. So I hope you enjoyed today and join us next time for our next creation special. Archaeology is a fascinating subject. It is the study and the scientific principles behind the history of mankind on the planet. There is nothing like being able to find an archaeological artifact and being able to touch it and feel it, see how it's been shaped. You know, archaeology gives you an amazing insight into the lifestyle and the way that people lived in the past. But unfortunately, a lot of modern archaeological principles are fraught with error. Problems with dating, chronology, dynasties, trying to match it up with the Bible and proving that the Bible is false is rife throughout all of modern archaeology. And it can be very difficult sometimes to give you a biblical perspective on it, which is what we're here to do. Over the next few episodes, and we're hoping to make it a continuous segment, we will be bringing you biblical archaeology. Oh, that's not just archaeology of the Bible, like this wonderful pot from the time of Abraham, but it's the whole of archaeology from a biblical perspective. The Iron Age, the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, all the way down through the medieval to modern eras. How does it fit in with the Bible? And what is the perspective that we can take away? So join myself, my brother who is currently studying archaeology, Caleb, and also Creation Research's resident historian, Dr. John Osgood, as we delve into Biblical Archaeology 101. Hello and welcome to our special series which we will be doing on biblical archaeology. It's important to understand that when we talk about biblical archaeology, we are not just talking about archaeology of the Bible. There are plenty of resources on that throughout the internet and in books and DVDs and the likes, and some of them are very good and some of them are not so good. But biblical archaeology is all of archaeology, the study of mankind on planet Earth from a biblical perspective. So it will include things like archaeology of the Bible times and the archaeological evidence that we can find in the Bible, but it goes way beyond that. It talks about things like the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Iron Age, cavemen. Where did all these fit into the Bible? We're going to be looking at artifacts from Egypt, from the Middle East, from South America, from North America, from all the way over in China. We're going to be bringing it all together and trying in these short little clips that we will be giving you, give you a big picture of archaeology from a biblical perspective. And the great thing about these is that they're going to be very, very hands-on. You can see I've got some artifacts in front of me, and this is not going to be unusual. We're going to try and have something hands-on, a real artifact, a real piece of history that you can touch and feel and get up close to, so that you can actually see what we are talking about. This isn't just, ideas and theories and, readings and stuff. This is real evidence that you can see, feel, touch, see before you, and really get up close and personal with. So join me, Indiana Joe, join my brother Caleb, and join Dr. John Osgood as we delve into some of the wonderful things that we can find about the history of our planet. Hello and welcome back to our Exploring Biblical Archaeology. I'm Indiana Joe and I'm here with my brother Caleb, who's just recently started studying his archaeological degree, specialising. What? Tell us a bit about your degree, which you're doing, Caleb.
So I'm starting off at the moment with just learning how archaeology works, learning about the methods and practices, how we go about working on digs, what we can learn from that kind of stuff, and then I'll be branching out and specialising in different subjects. I hope to work my way into biblical archaeology, but at the moment I'm studying the prehistoric age up into Egypt. So yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, well tell me about this little item that we have in front of us here, Caleb. What can you tell us about this?
Well, so this is a tablet called the Epic of Gilgamesh. An epic is basically a type of story. And it was discovered in the 19th century by a Turkish Assyrianologist.
Now, I believe that this is, because I think the Epic of Gilgamesh, if I'm correct, is over many different tablets.
Absolutely,
I think this particular one is actually known as the Deluge Tablet.
That's right, yes.
Why is it called the Deluge Tablet, Caleb?
It illustrates a very interesting point that the Assyrians demonstrated was of a great flood, and it covered the whole earth, destroyed all life on earth except from one boat which the gods decided they would put a few people on and enough animals to resustain the world.
And that was Gilgamesh.
This was Gilgamesh. Yes, this was Gilgamesh, the hero of the story.
So what you're saying is this little epic. This, by the way, is an exact replica of the one from the British Museum. We actually got this as an exact cast from the British Museum, and you can go and see it's there on display. Once we're out of this lockdown period, I would highly recommend people go and see it. So what you're saying, Caleb, is this is a segment of the epic where we've got Gilgamesh, who is being saved from a huge flood in a large boat. Now, does the flood cover the world?
I think it does, yes. It's a worldwide flood, yeah.
So it's a worldwide flood. So now, the interesting thing is, of course, there's somewhere else that talks about a worldwide flood.
Absolutely,
that being the Bible. And in the Bible, it tells us that it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and it covered the highest mountains, and only Noah and his family, 8 people in total, plus 2 of every kind of animal and 7 of every kind of clean animal, were saved. So there are extremely close parallels. In fact, the Epic of Gilgamesh is the closest flood legend to the Bible that we have. Now, there's a very interesting argument that says that the children of Israel, as you well know, they went into captivity, they went into Babylon, they went into Assyria, and it was argued that the Bible, the sort of the Jewish story of Noah's flood, actually got passed on to the Epic of Gilgamesh and actually got recorded. The biggest problem with this is the timing. You see, this epic, especially the deluge part, is actually, even though this tablet was discovered from a period that was after when the children of Israel went into captivity with the Assyrians and the Babylonians, the sort of base of this story is based off of much, much older tablets that we have found, which predate by a long time from when the children of Israel went into captivity. In other words, the Babylonians had this story of a worldwide flood a long time before the children of Israel could have possibly brought their flood legend along with it. Now, we're not saying that the Epic of Gilgamesh is the truth. We're not saying that the Epic of Gilgamesh is the one that we need to trust. What we're saying is we know that the Bible is true because it is true from the very beginning. And so we know we can take its word as truth, and we know we can take the account of the worldwide flood with Noah as truth there. But this epic, what it does, amongst the many hundreds and thousands of other flood legends that there are around the world, what it does is it testifies to the fact that there was a major watery cataclysmic event at some point in the past.
Yeah, even down to tiny details in the story. We find, like, in the Bible, it says that a dove came back to the ark with an olive leaf in its beak, proving, of course, that dry land had been found somewhere on the earth, and it had plants had grown, and the dove had come back. This is even outlined in the Gilgamesh epic. This story, this part of a dove coming back.
Fantastic.
With, olive leaf.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Join us next time as we delve more into the archaeology of the Bible. Well, there you have it. That brings us to the end of our first ever episode of Creation Research Unplugged. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it did give you some good food for thought as well. Please do bear with us. This is very early days. Like I say, our first ever episode. We are trying to continually update and redo our content so that it's as best as we can when we bring it out for you. If you'd like to give us any feedback or even some criticism, please go to info@creationresearchuk.com, and by emailing that to us, you will be able to get in touch with us and let us know what you think, and we would appreciate any feedback like that as well. If you like this content and want to find out more and continue to receive these videos on the YouTube channel at Creation Research, click the follow button and then hit the bell, which means that you will receive notifications as when we put out new videos, and we'd like to try and get these episodes out once a week at the same time and get some nice consistency there. It's not just on YouTube though. If you go over to Facebook at Creation Research, like our page, we're doing many more live videos and different content that goes out daily, and if you follow us there, you'll be able to receive updates as when these episodes come out as well. But thank you very much for watching. Goodbye, God bless, and Lord willing, we will see you next week.